This happened to me in my late teens. I lived in the middle of nowhere. There really wasn't much to do in my hometown, which led a lot of us to get into drugs. Where we grew up, there were three paths: go to college and get out of there, which wasn't realistic as no one could afford it. This really meant that there were only two paths: join the cult or join the rest of the dregs and derelicts. Before anyone asks about this cult, it's one of those weird neo-Christian super churches. They had a big compound further up the mountains with a big white building all fenced in. Not too much is known about their beliefs, but most of the old people in town belong to it, and they're all real creeps. Anyway, no one wanted to be a productive member of our community, so we all fell into this cycle of degradation. It's kind of comforting to live for nothing, but this experience is what caused me to turn my life around. So most of us went to these huge benders for days at a time, camping out in the woods, away from prying eyes. Imagine a hippie commune, but with much harder drugs and an extreme deflect of good vibes. Anyway, that location itself, with a big clearing we use as a campsite, derelict RVs and small structures littered the area. Everything was vandalized and the ground was essentially a landfill, full of discarded clothes, bottles, cans, assorted paraphernalia, and a lot of unmentionable things I'd rather not say. In 1,000 years, it'd be one funny archaeological survey. Anyways, this particular story happened at the end of a particularly bad relapse, just when I was starting to get it together again. I arrived at the location to find it somewhat quiet. It was early autumn and the usual crowd had left, giving way to only the most devoted participants. From the moment I arrived, I had this sick feeling. The feeling that something terrible was gonna happen. This grim feeling lingering over me is probably what kept me alive for the long run. I didn't partake in the festivities as much as I had planned to. The bad vibes turned potential self-destruction into self-reflection. I still drank with the others. Deeper into the night, I recall shambling into the forest to piss. As I walked past a tree line for some privacy, I noticed something half buried in the leaf litter. I kneeled, staring at it for a good minute, trying to discern what I was observing. Like a puzzle, it fell into place. As I realized what I was looking at, a partial leathery remains of a human, I stumbled back in disgust. This had been known to happen on occasion, and I was upset at the concept of a bunch of complacent, apathetic users dragging someone overdosing into the forest. I wanted to leave. I never wanted to change my life more than in that moment. This feeling passed as I returned to drink. I remember getting upset with my friends and just being moody and depressed. I was deemed to be the honorary party pooper, and at some point someone slipped me something, either to make things more interesting or to just knock me out. I remember stumbling to the end of the clearing before falling to my hands and knees. I woke up in a daze, staring towards the campsite, watching something moving around. My vision was too blurry to see clearly. As my vision returned slowly, I saw it. It was this large, vaguely human shape. I couldn't see a definitive number of limbs, but my guess is many. Have you ever had eye floaters where it's a vague shape in your vision you can't focus on? This is how this thing appeared. Even now in my memories, it just appeared as a gray smudge. It was at least as tall as a person and its limbs were too long, about the length of its own body. I tried to move, and the moment I did, the thing's head craned around to scan the landscape. When its gaze passed me, I physically felt it. Like a heavy weight on my head, it caused me to pass out again. I awoke to the monochrome twilight dawn. That time of the morning where you can see, but there's no color of sunlights visible yet. I was freezing. Remembering now, I think being so cold is what stopped it from detecting me. My body concealed amongst the leaf litter, and I probably had a bad circulation. Honestly, under normal circumstances, I'd consider it to be lucky to survive this. I peeled my aching body from the frozen soil and approached the campsite. Two smells hit me. The first was blood. Like roadkill left out, but not quite decomposing yet. That fallible smell you can almost taste. The second scent was a lot more interesting. A sharp chemical scent similar to vinegar stung my nostrils. I saw the first body laying just outside the ring of the small structures, twisted unnaturally with the bright bone protruding of the otherwise dark form. I couldn't bring myself to examine or identify them specifically. I did count them though, and I was the only one left. Their bodies littered at the campsite, all of them twisted and pulled in all directions like how a child would play with their toys. I found the source of the blood. One girl was laying in front of me, arms stiffly reaching up. The other half of her laid crushed against the side of the RV 30 feet away. I threw up as I searched everyone's pockets, trying my hardest to avoid eye contact. Tears streaked down my face as I lifted the keys out of a torn jacket. examining the site one last time. I saw there were no signs of struggle. It's like this thing just did this to them, one by one, and none of them tried to escape. The second thing I noticed is how everything was just covered in a black film. It's like the surface had some sort of holographic reflection. I got into the truck, we arrived, and left. I remember feeling guilty when I realized what I was about to do. I dumped the truck somewhere in the side of the road, and I never told anyone. I got clean. I became a family man in this small community. Recently, this story came up in therapy, as I remembered it again. Until then, it never stuck out. It was just a drop in an ocean of hazy memories. I keep seeing this thing in my mind. I don't think I was supposed to remember it. I keep seeing a hazy form everywhere I go. Not literally, but everything reminds me of it. The reason I'm posting this isn't because I'm asking for forgiveness or because I feel guilty and had to get this off my chest. It's because last night I awoke to a sore, invasive smell. My eyes shot open, instantly recognizing it. My vision was blurry, but upon rubbing my eyes, I realized there was nothing wrong with my eyes, and I was staring into its foggy face once again. The weight of its stare put me to sleep. I can't run this time. I have a wife, a daughter. I don't have all the answers. I don't know why it didn't hurt them or me. I don't know what it wants. I'll post updates when I can.